Hello again, this is Dr. Kevin Connors, continuing our series on the different factors that we're looking at in genetic testing, why we do genetic testing, and this one is on the importance of SOD. Now, SOD is not SOD, it is superoxide dismutase. Though SOD is important if you're putting in a new house, so it looks nice. My wife would love it. But now we're not talking about that. Superoxide dismutase. What is it? Why do we look for it? Why is it important? Okay, so superoxide dismutase fits into the metabolic picture in this transsulfuration pathway. Thank you again to Dr. Ben Lynch, seekinghealth.org. For these nice posters that he's created. So superoxide dismutase fits into the transsulfuration pathway. So these are the metabolic pathways that we're looking at. Remember, each one of these little bubbles here is a gene that creates an enzyme that creates the ability for that substrate A to move to substrate B so that we can sustain life. Well, SOD is right there on this pathway. So again, in this series, we're going to kind of break apart all these pathways to help everybody better understand it. So let's take a real close look right at that picture of SOD. What is it? It is an antioxidant. What superoxide dismutase gene does, it actually makes three different enzymes, SOD1, 2, and 3, found in different parts of your body and your cells. It takes superoxide, which is a free radical, and converts it into hydrogen peroxide. Your body needs superoxide at different times, but it's all in balance. When we make too much superoxide, in the case scenario of someone having a defect on the SOD gene, they will be not able to convert superoxide into hydrogen peroxide. They will have an excess of superoxide, and that does a whole bunch of damage in your body and makes you sick. So it converts superoxide radical into hydrogen peroxide. Superoxide is constantly formed in your body. So this is what it looks like. If superoxide gene is defective, not only will you increase in if the SOD gene is defective, not only will you increase superoxide radical, but one of the other problems with that is that superoxide radical combines with nitric oxide to form peroxynitrate, which is very damaging to your cells. Also, it's stealing up your nitric oxide. Now, if you've listened to my nitric oxide lecture, you remember that there's really three forms of nitric oxide in your body. Inducible nitric oxide synthase, which is the part of nitric oxide that helps to kill pathogens. You have endothelial nitric oxide. That is the part of nitric oxide that helps to keep your blood vessels, the endothelial cells of your blood vessels, open, and a deficiency in that can cause vasoconstriction, increased blood pressure, and cardiovascular disease. You also have neuronal nitric oxide synthase, which affects your muscles and affects your brains and your neurons. So nitric oxide is very important. When you have an excess of superoxide free radicals, it combines with your nitric oxide and creates peroxynitrate, which is equally damaging to the superoxide ion to your cells, and it's stealing all your nitric oxide. Not a good thing to happen. Peroxynitrate and superoxide are damaging to cells, damages DNA, damages your lipid membranes, increases aging, increases cancer risk. Chronic inflammation is a major player in ALS. It is a huge player in cardiovascular disease. So watch my nitric oxide presentation for that. It'll really help you understand that a little better. Here's a real neat article that was in Nature Reviews Neuroscience. Talks about in the cytoplasm mutant SOD, so a defect in SOD1, which is the SOD that's in the cytoplasm of the cell, increases apoptosis of the cell. So we're not talking about healthy apoptosis when we're trying to kill cancer cells. We're talking about early cell death and early aging. So it damages the mitochondria. It decreases ATP production of the mitochondria, so it can lead to chronic fatigue and inability to deal with chronic infections, and ultimately cell death. Not a good thing. So any decrease in superoxide dismutase is a bad thing. So we want to look at that when we look at a gene profile. Matter of fact, it's been found that humans produce an average of 90 micrograms per milliliter of SOD and live an average of about 80 years. You look at other species, chimpanzees produce an average of 40 micrograms per milliliter of SOD, and they live an average of 40 years. Fruit flies that have been bred to produce twice as much SOD as normal live twice as long as ordinary fruit flies. So SOD is a major component of aging and health and longevity. Interesting note there. That was kind of a cool correlation. So this SOD gene is important. We have to make sure that if there is a defect, what are we going to do about it? So see that it requires copper, zinc, and manganese, because really SOD1, SOD2, and SOD3 are a little bit different. They require different ones of these minerals in order to be created to create superoxide dismutase. So we want to look at the cofactors, these are considered cofactors in this case, to increase that to help this gene function. But remember, we don't want to just give SOD. There's SOD supplements out there on the market, and you do have to be careful whether they're even stable past the hydrochloric acid of your stomach. But you don't want to make the mistake of, oh, I have this gene, so I'm going to take a whole bunch of methyl tetrahydrofolate. I have an SOD gene defect, so I'm going to take a whole bunch of SOD. Though it can be beneficial to take a little, you have to remember that it's a part of a bigger picture. So this is the pathway that SOD is found in, the transsulfuration pathway, and you see how each one leads to the other. If you add one of these things to the puzzle, you're disrupting the whole big picture. That's why we always say you have to follow the rules. Never treat the SNP itself. Remember, a SNP is a single nucleotide polymorphism. That's what we're talking about with an SOD polymorphism. So if I have a single nucleotide polymorphism of my SOD gene, you don't want to just give SOD. You have to look at the bigger picture. Look at the whole person and look at the cause. So just because I have a polymorphism and I have a decreased production of SOD, what else is part of that picture? Does this person have Lyme disease? Do they have a chronic infection? Do they have whatever? And then you have to look at what's upstream and downstream of that, and how am I affecting that? So make sure that we do that. And we obviously never use protocols, treat everybody differently, and then tweak it along the way. And then look at this. This, I only showed you the bottom right transsulfuration pathway. I circled SOD in the bottom right here, but a transsulfuration pathway is a part of a huge bigger picture. So you have to be careful in doing supplementation, because you're affecting the whole giant picture and the whole scheme of things. So hope that helped you understand SOD just a little bit. If you have questions, call our office to learn more about it. If you've never had any genetic testing done, call our office and we can talk about it as well. Thank you very much.